Hours earlier, the mountain had been Instagram blue. We were 4 friends from Baltimore with a rental SUV and a plan. Weekend hike, switchbacks, a rented cabin on the far side. We wanted crisp pines and hot cocoa selfies and a story to tell. Jada had found the trail in a forum with a warning label. Intermediate advanced. Weather volatile. Don't go alone. We're not alone, Maya said, smirking, 4 gold hoops catching the sun. We're fabulous. She was the sort of black girl who never walked into a room so much as took it, who styled her beanie with winged liner. Theo, our quiet, gentle giant with a film degree and an old Nikon, drove. Jada, my cousin, fed us trail mix like a nurse. And me, Lena, the careful one, I carried a first aid kit and 2 emergency blankets that would later, in ways I didn't understand yet, save exactly 0 lives. We started late. Clouds piled like bruises. The forest thinned into rock. The cold looked handsome at a distance. Then it got teeth. At a ridge marked by a cairn, stones stacked like a gray spine, Maya pointed at a second trail. Shortcut. This one's not on the map, but the forum said it connects. Theo shrugged, camera strap across his chest. Shortcuts in horror films, he said, half joke, half warn. Maya rolled her eyes. I'm just saying it's an option. I looked at the sky. It had the color that means you should go home. But Maya curved her mouth and the mountain invited, and the shortcut was there daring us. We took it. We lost the main trail in 20 minutes. By dusk, the storm found us. Fat flakes sideways. We layered up and Jada's laugh went thin and the trees pressed close like witnesses. When the first cliff face appeared, sheer, iced over, a wrong wall in a place no wall belonged, we knew it. We were somewhere we shouldn't be. Backtrack, I said. But back had been erased. The wind sowed the path closed behind us, then the scream. We split up because fear makes smart people stupid. 2 and 2, Maya said, as if she were our captain and this was a plan. She went with Theo toward the ridge. I stayed with Jada following the curve of a frozen stream. 15 minutes, Maya said. Whistle if you find anything. We regroup right here. Do not move, we moved. The wind pushed. The forest leaned. 15 minutes stretched, lost its shape. Trees here wore long gray beards of lichen. Rocks crouched like animals. Jada kept grabbing my sleeve as if I might float off. Do you hear that? She said. It was a low hum, almost electronic, almost a prayer. It took me a second to understand, not a hum, a drone. Theo's drone. The one he packed for mountain panoramas, buzzing faint, then sputtering, then silencing above the ridge. Okay, I said. Okay. We turned back toward the cairn. Except there was no cairn. Only a hunch the ground had once been higher. The storm, indifferent, kept riding over us. We found Theo. Or rather, Theo found us lurching down the slope with his beanie skewed and a look on his face I had never seen. He's a quiet crier. That's how I know he is truly scared. He wasn't crying. He wasn't anything. Theo. I gripped his coat. Where's Maya? He opened his mouth. Nothing. The wind spoke for him and I wanted to punch the wind. Where? I shouted. He lifted a hand, trembling, and pointed upslope. Slip, he said finally, like it hurt. She slipped. The scream that followed, whether it belonged to Maya or the mountain, cut a seam in the night. We climbed. The snow ate our knees. Theo carried rope he'd insisted on bringing, a long coil, neon orange. Bought at a hardware store with a cashier who'd said in a soft voice, "Mountains don't care." Here, I said, knotting the rope around my waist, passing it to Jada, then to Theo. 3 points. No one goes alone, the wind argued. It threw knives of ice at our cheeks. We followed Theo's footprints until they vanished. Then his gestures, then only instinct, heading toward a formation that looked like a broken tooth. The ridge there narrowed to the width of a kitchen counter. Beyond it, the white of the world falling away. Be careful, I said, voice thin. We wormed along, bellies to rock, palms burning. Halfway across, the rope jerked. Jada cried out. Theo slipped to one knee. What? I said, then saw. A handprint in the snow, fresh, small fingers splayed. A second. Then a smear as if someone had tried to hold on and the mountain had said no. Maya, Jada screamed, and the echo came back wrong, more like a word we didn't know. We got down on our stomachs and inched to the edge, tied off the rope to an embedded root that looked like a vein. Theo peered over, then made a choking sound and turned his face away. I made myself look. Below the lip, maybe 10 feet down, there was a ledge slicked with ice. Above it, blackness. Below it, another drop I could not measure, The beam of my headlamp dragged shadows out of hollows. There were scuffs on the ledge, then streaks. Then the streaks went over. "She's down there," Theo said. His voice had a shape again. Broken, but a shape. I lost her. We'll go," I said. "We'll get her." I tied the rope to my harness, improvised from webbing, looped the slack around my fists, and dropped. The cold bit through gloves. The rope burned. My boots found the ledge, slid, found it again. I crouched, breath fogging, the light making stars in the snow. "Maya," I called. The word was shaky, and it made a sound like hope being foolish. When the answer came, it came from somewhere that made my stomach fall. "Lena," a voice whispered. Not above. Not below. Not behind. From inside the rock, I swallowed. Static crackled near my ear. Theo's walkie muffled. "You okay?" I touched the wall. The stone was cold and wet and rough and wrong. There was a groove there, a seam, almost like a door had once been cut and set back, filled with time. My glove brushed metal. A hinge, a bracket. The mountain hummed again, a frequency that made my teeth ache. "Lena?" Chida this time panicked. "Please. I'm okay," I managed. "There's something. A gap. Do you see her?" "No." I saw places where her boots might have skated, where her hands might have clawed, where the mountain might have learned her name. But I also saw a line in the rock, faint as a scar. And I am the kind of person who pushes when I see a door. I pushed. The seam gave with a long animal sigh. Snow sighed with it. The face of the mountain opened. Not wide, but enough to accept a person, enough to breathe out stale air and the smell of old, damp wood. "Guys," I whispered. "There's a room." Theo cursed softly above. Jada said, "What?" As if I'd offered the wrong answer to a very practical question like, "What's 2 + 2? A room in the mountain. Theo's light swung down, jittering on rock and then on me and then on the thing beyond me. An old timber frame, scarred and bolted, holding shut a narrow entrance. The storm had packed snow against it like insulation. A hand-painted sign rotted there, hard to read through ice. I scraped it with my glove. Ranger Station West, Avalanche Shelter. And below, in smaller letters partly eaten closed since 1998. Jada's voice went small again. "What if she went inside?" "Or got pulled," Theo said. "Pulled by what?" Jada snapped. "Because it's easier to fight than to feel." I didn't answer. I jammed my shoulder against the timbers, and with a shudder and a pitched moan, the door swung inward. The three of us crawled inside, blinking, headlamps scattering dust. The wind's voice dropped, muffled by the mountain. The space was taller than I expected and narrower. A corridor running along the inside of the cliff, ribbed with old beams. It smelled like cedar gone sour. Our lights found a cot collapsed against a wall, a dented kettle, a stack of faded posters warning about bear safety. Someone had once tried to be safe here. Someone had failed. "Hello?" Jada called too loud. "Maya?" Our beam slid across a low desk bolted to bedrock. Theo's light caught a shape on it. He stepped closer, swallowed, and blew dust. A radio, old military style, connected to a square of dead batteries and a box of spooled wire. Beside it, a logbook, its cover leather dry and buckled. Across the first page, in a careful hand, a name. Ranger Hart, West Avalanche Shelter, with dates ending in 1998. Beneath that, a line in a different pen, scribbled across the margin, "Do not lock it out. Do not lock it in." I touched the words. Felt the indent of the pen like a bruise. "Lena." Jada's voice again, but different. The way your voice changes when you notice the thing in the corner is looking back. She was pointing at the floor. Boot prints led away from the door. Fresh, smaller than Theo's, smaller than mine. A little inward toe like Maya's. "Okay," I said. "Okay," we followed the prints deeper. The corridor bent left, then right, then sloped down. A metal door appeared, rusty and scabbed. It stood open a crack like a mouth deciding how much to say. "Maya?" I tried again. Something scratched on the other side, slow, like a fingernail on wood. Theo lifted his camera out of habit, as if documenting would make something real. He pulled the door. It squealed. Behind it, a small room, a low table, and an oil lamp black as a memory. More posters. A pinned map of the mountain with certain areas circled in red, labeled in pencil. Rot zone. A term I didn't know. And in the far corner, a hole in the floor. A straight shaft framed in wood, ladder rungs descending into the dark. The boot prints went to the hole and hesitated. Another print at the ladder's lip. Another print down one rung, then nothing. Jada's inhale was a whistle. She went down. Or got pulled, Theo said again, and I wanted to tell him to stop saying it like that, like the mountain had hands. We had one rope and a half-dead radio. We had a storm chewing the world. We had love, which is a good thing but not historically a tool. We had me, the careful one, who had read that care is not always safety. I'm going, I said. Not alone, Jada said. 3 points, Theo said. We rigged the rope and tied it to the base of the cot, bolted into stone. I clipped myself to it and put a boot on the first rung. Lena, Theo said. You hear that? I did. A murmur, far below, like someone telling a secret. A word rising, don't, then another word, help. Then silence, as if the tunnel swallowed both and couldn't decide which to keep. I climbed. The ladder ran 40 feet, maybe. Rung slick, wood swollen with old damp. The narrow shaft breathed cold up into my face. At the bottom, the tunnel opened to one side. A horizontal seam that ran along the mountain like an artery. It had rails old miners might have used. A wheelbarrow collapsed in a skeletal pile and scattered everywhere bones. Not human. Deer maybe, fox, tiny birds. Clean, as if something had been taking and taking for years and done the dishes after. Lena? Jada's voice ribboned down. You good? I'm on the floor, I called back. My voice came back to me changed, softened by spaces unseen. The boot prints were clear here. Maya's turning left. I followed them, rope sliding behind me, lamp jittering. The air grew colder. My light found patterns on the walls, faint, chalky, repeating. Not writing, not art. Something like frost veins, but wrong. They formed a shape I could not quite hold in my mind. I rounded a bend and my headlamp hit a body. I said a sound I will not transcribe. The light skittered, then settled, and I saw it. A shape sprawled on the tracks, boot twisted, hair dark against rock. For one awful second, I thought it was Maya. It wasn't. The body had a ranger's jacket decayed to threads and an old badge eating into his chest. His face was turned toward the wall. His fingers clutched a notebook. Ranger Heart, the badge read under rust. The notebook's cover was slick with moisture and time. I pried it loose and opened it. Words ran downhill across pages in a hand that started tidy and turned terrified. January 12th. Snow stacked on the west face like a held breath. We posted warning at the trailhead. Some fool kids always come, though. The mountain doesn't care. January 16th. The hum again. Don't know how else to say it. A sound like low electric, but not. Not from the equipment. From the walls. I told R we should seal the lower shaft. R laughed. Said the rock is rock. But it isn't. January 20th. Someone, something kept unlatching the door. First we blamed wind. Then each other. Then we watched the latch slide back with no hand on it. R wants to lock it. I told him the rule, do not lock it out, do not lock it. And you do not cage a thing, the mountain grew. January 21. There are footprints at the lip of the shaft. Small. Like a child's. We have no children here. January 24. If someone finds this, don't come down. If you've come down, don't go farther. It's hungry when it's cold. The last entry was a wet scrawl. We heard them on the ridge. We tried to warn. We shouted up the shaft. They didn't hear. The page tore there, a ragged edge like a wound. A smudge below it looked like the last of a word, don't or help. A sound came behind me. A soft tap. I turned. My lamp cut a trembling cone through the dark. In it, another boot, not mine. Not Maya's, a child's boot, scuffed red, empty, standing where it had not stood before. Lena, Theo up above, voice thin. You're quiet. I hate when you're quiet. I found a ranger, I said. He's dead. I swallowed. There's something else down here. I lifted my light higher. The tunnel stretched away. Rails stuttering into dark, walls shivering with those chalky veins. At the edge of the beam, something moved. Not a person. Not an animal, a ripple. A place where the air had weight. Please, a voice whispered. A voice I knew. Maya's. It came from everywhere, as if the tunnel remembered her and wanted to be kind or cruel. I ran. The rope went taut, jerked my waist. I felt the tug of Jada and Theo up there, anchoring me, keeping me their person. The tunnel turned, angled down, widened into a space that had once been a storage room for supplies and was now a kind of chapel to neglect. In the center, a shaft of light from a crack in the rock above painting snow dust in a slow fall. And beyond that, on the floor, a phone glowing weakly. Maya's phone. The wallpaper was her, 2 summers ago, tongue out, braids flying, sunglasses too big for her face. The screen showed a paused video. I pressed play, static, a jumble of sound. Then the lens steadied on Maya's face, cheeks red, eyes wide. She was crying. She never filmed herself crying. That's how I knew it wasn't a game. "Okay," she whispered. Okay. If you find this, I fell, but I found this place. I can't get back up. The wall isn't a wall." A sob. "I hear something." "Lena, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. I thought the shortcut, I thought." "Okay." She turned the camera. The tunnel spun, found the chalky veins, the rails, the broken wheelbarrow. It panned to the dark. "There's a person?" In the frame, at the edge of what the camera could hold, something stood. It looked like a person the way a scarecrow looks like a person. The shape is there, but the face is wrong. It lifted its head. I paused the video without meaning to. "Lena," Jada said softly in my ear. "Come back, wait," I whispered. The video had paused where the figure's face should be. It wasn't a face. It was a mirror. Not glass, wet rock, polished by time and something else. In it, a reflection. Dark features. Eyes like mine. Mouth like mine. Not my face exactly, but close. The mountain held too many versions of me and had chosen one at random. I hit play. The figure stepped forward slow, like it was listening to instructions. The camera shook. Maya's breath hitched. "Don't," she said. "Stay there, please." It did not stay. It tilted its head and light from her lamp slid over it like water over oil. It reached out, not a hand, but something that wanted to be one. The video cut. The screen flashed the time. 6:44 p.m. 30 minutes before we found the shelter. My hands shook harder than the camera did. I pocketed the phone and turned back. That's when I saw the second thing. The chalky patterns on the wall weren't random. They were prints. Not hands, not animals. Lips. Dozens, hundreds, pressed along the tunnels long ago. My light passing over ribs of kisses the mountain had been given or had taken. That hum in my teeth again like a song under the skin. "Lena." Theo this time. "The rope is..." It's moving. It was. It trembled against my hip with emotion not theirs. Something below on the slack. Tension pulling down. I turned my beam in the shape at the edge of it. My shape, but not me. Tilted its head like a question. "Don't," I whispered. To me, to whoever could hear. It took another step and then the mountain spoke. It wasn't words. It was the rumble of snow and the groan of timber. The long, slow breaking you feel in your knees before you hear it. The lights flickered. Dust rained from a crack above, a fine white mist. Far up the shaft, Jada screamed my name, Theo swore, and feet scrambled. The rope jerked with their panic and with the mountain's anger all at once. Then the avalanche hit. An avalanche is less a thing and more a decision the mountain makes. It is a sentence without punctuation. It is an answer that keeps answering. The shock wave pushed through the tunnel, a fist of air that knocked me to the tracks. The rope yanked, then went slack. The light died. For a moment there was only sound, the world teaching me how small I was. When the echoes finally thinned, I lay in a new quiet so complete it had texture. I coughed and dust bloomed hot in my lungs. My headlamp sputtered, then drew a thin ring of vision. The tunnel had changed. A wall of snow and rock plugged the ladder shaft like a cork. The rope had been sheared, the end curled like a snapped tendon at my hip. Above the plug, muffled and faint, someone pounded. A voice, Jada or Theo or both. "Lena, we're here." The plug swallowed the rest. "I'm okay," I shouted, though I didn't know if I was. I didn't know if they were. I repeated it until the effort made my throat raw. I'm okay. The tunnel told me I was lying. I turned in a slow circle. The figure was gone, or had stepped out of light, or had never been, and I'd invented it with fear. My head throbbed. My ribs hurt when I breathed too big. I took stock because that's what I can do. One phone, dead. One headlamp, limping. One notebook, Ranger hearts. One rope end, one body that could still move. I chose a direction. Left, farther from the ladder, toward the last place Maya's phone had recorded. I went, the mountain hummed. The chalky lips glowed when I passed, or maybe that was a trick of light. The tunnel narrowed, then widened to a chamber. There against the far wall was a figure in a parka, hood up, slumped, hands folded like a prayer. Maya, I breathed, and crossed the space in 3 stupid steps. She lifted her head. Her eyes were wrong. Her face, Maya's face, had a new softness to it, as if it had been kneaded by hands too big for human work. Her mouth tried a smile the mountain had taught it. "Lena," she said. "You came." I stopped. The lamp jittered. Behind her on the wall, fresh prints bloomed. Lips found and pressed, not pale like the old ones, but dark, the color of us. "Maya," I said carefully. "Are you hurt?" "I'm different." She tilted her head. The same tilt my reflection had given me. It asked me to stay. It asked very nicely. It said it's lonely when it snows. "What is it?" She looked toward the stone. "It's older than the name you want to give it. It remembers when this wasn't a mountain yet. It remembers hands. It sees us. It wants us because we're warm." I took a step back. "It wants one of us," she corrected and smiled a little. Behind her, the chalky lips pulsed, faint like breath. "What do you mean, one of us?" "The rule," she said, and her voice wasn't hers for a moment. It was another voice speaking through hers. Heart's cadence, the written warning becomes speech. "Do not lock it out. Do not lock it in. It needs a door to breathe. It needs a face to wear when there's weather. It needs to be let out sometimes, and let back. It needs a host." I didn't say the next thought. The mountain said it for me. "Choose." "I won't leave you," I said. She laughed softly. "You might have to." Something shifted behind me. I turned. The tunnel's mouth had narrowed. Snow was dribbling in through some new crack, building a small dune at my boots. The hum rose a half step, beginning to sound like a voice with no mouth. "Lena," Maya said, "if you stay with me, it stays with us. Until the storm ends. Until it's had enough. People will come in the morning. They'll find us, or it takes both of us and the people find nobody. Or you leave. You let it keep me, and you live to tell it. Give it a door. It likes a door. I can't." The word cracked. "You can," she said and stood. The movement wasn't hers. It was too smooth. Stone learning muscle. She came close and took my hands. Her gloves were wet. "You always were the careful one." "This is careful." I stared. My head moved side to side. Behind her, a line of lip prints blossomed, fresh, like the mountain was kissing the place we stood. "I won't leave you," I said again, small. She leaned forward and pressed her forehead to mine. In a whisper I knew was entirely hers, for exactly 2 seconds, she said, "I was going to tell you about the job. L.A., the docuseries. I was going to ask you to come. I should have told you. I love you, okay? Not like you want, but like I can, and I want you to live." A sob ripped out of me like a thread pulled through skin. "I love you too." "Then be the door," she said. And when she smiled this time, it was almost right. "Tell them what the mountain asks. Do not lock it out. Do not lock it in." She let go. The chamber breathed. A cold wind ran along my spine like fingers. The hum became a chord. I took a step back and then another. Maya did not follow. The tunnel seemed happier with that choice than I did. The snowfall at my boots slowed, as if the mountain was satisfied with our negotiation. At the plug, I dropped to my knees and clawed snow. My gloves soaked through in seconds. I shouted until my throat broke. The pounding from the far side came back stronger, more urgent. Jada's voice, closer now. Theo's voice, thin. "Lena, we hear you!" "Here," I screamed. "Here!" I dug until my hands were blunt. The snow was stubborn. The mountain allowed a hole as big as my palm, then my fist, then big enough for my arm up to the elbow. A flood of wet air poured through, smelling of pine and panic. "Lena," Jada shouted into the hole. "We're okay." Theo's shoulder is, "We're okay. We can dig you out. Stay there, please, stay there." Behind me, the hum made a sound like a patient sigh. The tunnel's lips dimmed. I looked over my shoulder. The chamber where I'd left Maya was still. The fresh prints glowed faint, then faded like breath on glass. "I'm here," I said, hand in the small hole, reaching for anyone. Fingers laced mine, Jada's grip solid and shaking. "Don't you dare," she said, teeth in her voice. I thought of the choices the mountain had given us, which were not choices. I thought of doors. "Pull," I said. They did. The plug shifted a handful of inches. Somewhere behind their wall of snow, someone had found a shovel in the shelter. There is always a shovel if you look enough, and was using it like a prayer. We met in the middle, inches at a time. Time went jelly. The hum dropped a pitch, maybe content, maybe resting. When the hole was finally large enough for a shoulder, I pushed through and Jada and Theo grabbed and yanked, and the mountain made a grudge noise like a throat clearing. I fell into them. We were a pile of wet, shivering animals. Theo's lamp was cracked. His face was half blood, half snot. Jada was crying and laughing and hitting me. Don't do that again, don't. I know, I said into their coats and tried not to turn toward the mountain's door. Where's... Theo's breath snagged. He didn't finish. I put my hand on his chest. She told me to go. Is she... Jada began. She's with it, I said, and the words were thin. She asked me to live. Theo made a sound I don't have in my alphabet. Jada put her forehead to mine. We sat in our shared heat, surrounded by snow and the small, stubborn space we'd made inside it. The storm hollered. The mountain listened. Then Theo's radio crackled, a voice tinny and distorted. Anyone, copy, avalanche warning, shelter west. Then clearer. This is Ranger Alvarez. We got a drone alert of movement on the west face before the slide. If you are in the shelter, stay put. We're coming at first light. Jada grabbed the radio. We're here. 3 of... Her mouth closed. She took breath and started again. 2 of us. We're trapped behind an interior collapse. We're okay. Copy, the voice said. Stay off the lower shaft. Do not, I repeat, do not lock anything down there in or out. We looked at each other. The radio hissed. Copy, Jada said, tears in her teeth. Copy. We spent the night in the cold mouth of that hole. Too scared to sleep. Hands linked, sharing sips from our bottles. Passing Theo's broken lamp back and forth to see each other's faces. Sometimes I thought I heard a footstep in the tunnel behind me. Sometimes I thought I heard a whisper shaping my name the way the wind shapes snow into cornices. Once I heard Maya laugh, the exact way she laughed when I told her her eyeliner was violence. I didn't turn. Near dawn, the hum softened to a purr. The wind outside shrank from a howl to a sulk. In that gray thinning, Theo found the logbook I'd tucked under my jacket and opened it across our laps. We read the last page again, lips moving, as if speaking the rule gave it more power. Do not lock it out, he said. Do not lock it in, I answered. We didn't know if we were praying or remembering or both. They dug us out at 7:08 a.m. The first thing I saw through the widened hole was a pole with a fluorescent flag and a hand wrapped in a wool glove. Then a face weathered and kind. Ranger Alvarez said our names like he'd been practicing them all night. He said, I'm sorry too many times. He said, we'll go back for her, and the way he said it made me understand it had the structure of a promise even if it didn't have the timeline of one. They strapped Theo's shoulder and wrapped heat packs around our spines and poured hot sweetness into our mouths from a steel thermos that tasted like heaven. We emerged into a world that had been erased and drawn again. The west face gleamed like a sheet. The pines stared. The rescue team moved like a well-rehearsed dance across something that did not want to be danced on. Wait, I said, and turned back, stumbling, to the shelter's door. The old timber groaned. The mountain breathed wet in my face. Tired, Alvarez touched my arm. We'll mark it and secure it, he said gently. We know this place, do you? I asked, too harsh. He met my eyes and did not flinch. We do in our way. We lose, we learn. The mountain keeps its secrets the way we keep photographs. What does rot zone mean? I asked, surprising myself. He blinked, surprised I'd seen the map. A place where the permafrost is changing. Where rock does what wood does, it swells. It shifts. It remembers what it was. We used to call it that locally. The old rangers did. Hart, I said. He nodded. Found him myself when I was a rookie. We never found his partner. We think they wrote that rule together. Behind us, the shelter's door thumped softly, as if it had a heartbeat. Please, I said, when you go, down there, don't lock it out. Don't lock it in. Alvarez's mouth twitched. He touched the brim of his hat like an oath. Copy, he said. They led us to the snowmobiles. We rode down the mountain like ghosts in neon vests. The wind peeled tears from my face and threw them behind me. At the ranger station, heat hit like a fist. Blankets, questions, paperwork the size of sorrow. We told our story and the room leaned in. We told it again and it became something else, not just ours, something public. A detective asked about the shelter, the tunnel, the figure. I said the words I could say. I didn't say the ones I couldn't. that the mountain showed me a version of me wearing itself, that I thought about leaning forward and kissing the chalky wall to see what kissed back. Theo showed his drone footage. The last frame was a blur of white and a scream swallow. Jada held my hand like a rope. In the corner, a TV played a documentary on mute. A host in a puffer jacket talked with her hands over B-roll of snow. The bottom of the screen read, "True North, surviving the cold." I stared and felt something like a punch of recognition I couldn't place. The host turned her head and the studio light caught her cheekbone. It was Maya, not her. A clip from her reel, maybe. A pilot that never aired. A universe where she'd made it to LA already. The caption scrolled, "Coming this fall." I stood, dizzy. The ranger at the desk looked up. "You okay?" I nodded. "And can you turn that up?" He did. The sound that filled the room was not Maya's voice. It was a generic VO. She was a silhouette behind a montage. But her smile at the end, quick, real, felt like a flare in a cave. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Alvarez. We found her phone on a ledge near the lower shaft. We'll bring it by," I typed, "thank you." Then, before I could think myself out of it, "Please be careful down there, always," he sent back. The movie ending 3 months later. I sat in a small theater in Baltimore and watched myself make choices I had made before. Theo had cut his footage and mine and the ranger's body cam into a film he called One Night on the Mountain. It wasn't meant for theaters, but a local festival liked the way it made them shiver. The opening shot was the cairn. The second shot was our faces in the sun. The third was the ridge, storm rolling in like a decision. The sound designer made the hum live under everything like a heartbeat you don't notice until someone stops it. Jada squeezed my hand at all the right places. People in the row behind us gasped where we had gasped and whispered where we had whispered. When the shelter door groaned open on screen, the audience leaned forward as one animal. When the chalk lips appeared, someone said, "Oh, hell no," softly. When Maya's video paused on the not face, the room held its breath. I did too. In the final sequence, Theo cut between my digging and the inside of the tunnel, between hands pulling snow and lips fading on stone, between rescue lights blinking and the mountain's black veins. Over this, he played the ranger's voice reading from Hart's log. "Do not lock it out. Do not lock it in." The phrase became the chorus. He layered it in Jada's whisper and in my own voice from an interview I barely remembered giving. The last shot was not us. It was the shelter door at dawn, timber swollen, mountain breathing. The camera pushed in until the whole frame was wood grain and darkness. It held there too long until the audience began to wriggle. In that almost black faint as a secret, there was a shape. You could miss it if you blinked. It looked like a face if a face had been carved by water with no hands to guide it. The hum rose half a step like a question, then cut to black applause. A woman in front of us clutched her boyfriend's arm and laughed the way people do when they survive being scared by something that can't touch them. The lights came up. Theo's name on the screen made my chest hurt in a way that felt good this time. He bowed awkwardly at the Q&A. Someone asked if we'd faked any of it. "I wish," he said, rubbing the healed line on his face. After, near the exit, a man cornered me. Pressed, "Ernest, what happened to your friend?" he asked, as if the right arrangement of words could unlock the door in the mountain and bring her out. New and laughing, "She stayed," I said, and watched the way his eyebrows knit that into a story he could hold. "You mean she died?" "I mean what I said." He pulled back, annoyed at my unhelpfulness. He wanted a map with all the trails marked and none of the weather. He wanted a mountain that cared. He left. Jada exhaled a laugh. "You're impossible," she said fondly. We walked into the night. It was warm, city warm, a heat that smelled like bread and rain. In the sky, clouds stacked politely. The hum was gone, wrong climate. But sometimes when a truck rolled by and the concrete vibrated, I felt a note low in my bones that was not entirely traffic. At home, an envelope waited in my mailbox with no return address. Inside, a flash drive and a note in a tidy hand. "From Alvarez, for your archive. You didn't get this from me." The drive held footage from a helmet cam I recognized from the rescue team. The date stamp read April 2nd, the day they went back down looking for a body they might never find. I watched it with the volume low, the way you listen to a house at night. Alvarez and another ranger in Nguyen clipped lines, dropped down the shaft and moved along the rails. The camera's beam jittered. Steam breathed from the walls where their light warmed them, as if the mountain was sighing. At the chamber where I had left Maya, they stopped. Alvarez panned slowly. The mouth of the tunnel we'd used had narrowed, as if the mountain had healed a little. The chalky lips were dull. The space where Maya had stood was empty. Nothing, Nguyen said. No remains, Alvarez zoomed on the wall. For a moment the frame was only rock, dark and wet. Then he stepped back, tilted, and the camera caught them. Fresh prints. Not pale, dark. The shape of a mouth repeated like someone had pressed their lips there and held again and again, centering on a height matching her face. The lens wavered. Jesus, Nguyen whispered. Alvarez's breath hit the mic. Don't say his name down here, he said softly. Say hers, the camera lowered. I heard him do it, almost too quiet. Maya, a trick of the light maybe, a shake in the hand, but the print seemed to darken a note as if agreeing. The footage cut to them climbing back. At the lip of the shaft, Alvarez turned the camera for one last pass. The last frame is the shelter door, same as Theo's last shot. The wood swells. The black breathes. In the slow sound of the helmet mic, in the quiet between one exhale and the next, a voice whispers, not in our language, not in any I know, but in the tone you use when someone you love is sleeping and you want them to wake. When the video ended, my apartment's hum returned, fridge, AC, city. I sat very still. On the table beside me, Maya's phone lay face down, cracked spiderweb on the back like a little mountain. I picked it up and unlocked it. I scrolled to the last saved clip, the one I had taken before we left the ranger station 3 months ago. It was nothing, a shot through the windshield of a truck, a slur of snow, a hand reaching to cut the engine. But when I cranked the volume and leaned in, past the hiss and the heater and the plow blades, I heard something else, faint, patient. The mountain's cord, thinner now, an old radio barely catching a station. In it, a shape of a word I shouldn't have recognized and did anyway. Door. I turned the phone off and set it gently down. Then I got up, opened my actual front door, and stood in the warm hall for a long minute, letting the city's light spill into my place. Letting the night be the night. A neighbor somewhere laughed. Someone down the block burned toast. A siren dopplered from one life to another. When I shut the door again, I whispered through the wood. Not tonight, I said, because boundaries are a kind of love. Not tonight. The hum on the far side of the world settled, like a big animal accepting its leash. In the dark of my bedroom, with the window cracked and the curtains breathing, I lay awake and pictured a face in the timber. It was not Maya's, not mine, not anyone's I knew. It was a face you'd see if you looked too long at rock and wanted it to look back. When sleep finally took me, it was sudden and soft as snow. In the morning, when I made coffee, there was frost on the inside of the window, in a pattern that looked like a mouth about to speak. I breathed on it. It faded. I wrote all this down. Not because it makes sense, not because it's safe, but because the mountain asked for a door and stories are the only ones I have to lend. If you go up there, if you see the cairn and the sky and you think you are bigger than weather, remember the rule someone wrote with their good pen before their hands got shaky. Do not lock it out. Do not lock it in. Knock once. If you must, then listen for the shape of an answer and decide whether you want to be believed.